Welcome back, everybody. We're here with week 8 of the college football season. Short week for the SEC. Only 5 games going on this weekend, but there are some games in here that's going to impact the SEC. Both division races are going to be impacted heavily this week. Let's start it off with the noon game on Saturday. It's Arkansas at home taking on Mississippi State. Mississippi State is, I believe, yes, coming off their bye. Mississippi State is still an interesting team to me in the stance of they're not too good of a team, but their offense is finally figured out, and their offensive coordinator has finally figured out, let Will Rogers throw the ball. He is your offense. You can put points up. You can get high-level production out of your wide receivers if you just let him loose and let him throw it all over the yard. You don't have to depend on the running game for running every single other play in that offense. So it'll be interesting to see how they look coming out of the break that they are on. Now, Arkansas, on the other hand, has not had their bye week yet. They've been playing for 8 weeks straight. Coming off of the game last week against Alabama, and I tell you what, I was impressed with them from the standpoint of they got a lot of fight. You know, they don't got a lot of wins in their column. They're look spotty at times, but I tell you, this team that's a team that does not give up. If you let them stay in the game long enough, they'll make an interesting game out of it. And we've seen that against the LSU game with them. We've seen it in a lot of games that we've featured them in. But for me, I got to go with Arkansas in this one, just because, like I've said before in the last couple of weeks, this SEC season is very much followed on who's the home team. Who's at home in a lot of these games. And with them being at home, I think they have well more than enough fight to get through Mississippi State. So I'm taking them in this one.
Yeah, it's time. It's Arkansas's time, man. Look, you look at they've lost 5 games in a row. I came away very impressed with them after the Bama game. Whatever adjustments Sam Pittman made at halftime got them to a position where they were doggone near to beat Alabama on the road. So you look at the schedule, look at the games that they've lost. They played, 3 top 25 teams, and of their 5 losses that they've had, they've all been 7 points or less. I mean, Arkansas is not a bad team. KJ Jefferson is not a bad quarterback. They're at home. Mississippi State, I still don't think they know who they are yet. I think Arkansas knows exactly who they are. I really do. They have just not been able to pull away late or pull these games out at the end. They get it done this weekend by 10 or more points.
I think I'm right there with both of you. I think this game is really going to be interesting, but to me, I'm going to be on a little bit of the flip side. I'm going to take Mississippi to get this one just because what I've seen from Arkansas is that they're not really starting the game off how I really think they should be starting the game off. And in that aspect, I'm talking about consistency. When I saw last week against Bama, it was an impressive overall performance, but I think that if they can be more consistent on a drive-to-drive basis on offense, then I think they'll be able to get the job done. Mississippi State will come out and try to throw this ball all over Arkansas, and I think that's something that's going to be successful just because I saw a lot of downfield passes last week that were open. For Bama just wasn't consistent enough in the second half to get the blowout that way I thought it was going to happen. But this game right here is going to be something I think is going to be interesting for Arkansas. I would love to see them get this win. I actually would. It would be their first win in the SEC this year. They'll break a losing streak. But to me, I just don't think they have enough in the tank. I think they're too hit with injuries to be able to get this job done. I got Mississippi State by at least 2 touchdowns in this one right here on the road at Arkansas.
All right, moving on to the 3:30 game we got on SEC Network. Missouri at home taking on my South Carolina Gamecocks. I'll tell you what, this is another interesting game to me, not from the standpoint of hyping Missouri up for their schedule that they have right now. But I tell you what, Missouri has a very, very, very good offense, and they know who they are on offense, and you see it week in and week out. The problem with Missouri is their defense. Anybody can score with Missouri. I went back and looked at a lot of their film and looked at a lot of their games that they had this past they had this past season, and you go back to even week 1 and even going into the K-State game, every team they've played outside of Vanderbilt has had a chance to win games against them every single time that they've played, no matter whether it was home or away. The reason I think last week is very much indicative to who Missouri is, because you go to Kentucky and you win that game, but that game, Missouri started out very slow in that game, and I think if you had a competent quarterback on the other side for Kentucky and Devin Leary, I think Kentucky should have pulled that game out. Devin Leary, yet again, and not to beat on Kentucky right now because it's not about them, but Devin Leary is not a consistent quarterback this season in the SEC. He's not accurate. He can't hit the side of a barn. He's not good. So you go into this matchup. The closest game I see that can compared to this one, honestly, it might be the LSU game, because you got two defenses in South Carolina, Missouri, who act like they don't want to play defense whatsoever, and you got two quarterbacks on both sides who are running their offenses at high clips right now. Even going back to the South Carolina game, we tried a new O-line last week, and this is the best the O-line has looked, even though we were going against Florida last week in a game that we shouldn't have lost, but the defense dropped it. The defense dropped that game. You're up 10 points with 9 minutes left to go in the game. You should win a game, especially at home. I think we'll get those corrections fixed, but I was very impressed with South Carolina's O-line play. The run, they finally got Mario the touches he deserves. He's our number one back. He looked great, ran for over 100 yards. Spencer looked great in last week's game as well, throwing for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had 1 interception, but that's in the garbage time where you're just trying to chuck it, get some plays to get in field goal range. Leggett got over 100 yards receiving again last week. You're going to have your chances in this game against Missouri to go and score. Now, not to linger too much on this game, my pick is going to be, I'm going Missouri in this one. Don't get me wrong, I'm a South Carolina through and through, but the fact that, like I said in the last game, Missouri being at home plays a big factor into this game. I have not seen South Carolina go on the road and play well. I think, honestly, they can South Carolina is going to be able to score in this game, but I don't know if the defense is going to show up. And Brady Cook, whatever reason, Missouri has South Carolina's number right now. They are just clicking whenever we play. We played them last year at home. They came in and just drubbed us at home. I need them. If you can pull this off, hey, great, because the back half of this schedule, you got to win a lot of these games that you got on your slate. And with 2 road games going on right now for South Carolina, at Missouri and at A&M next week, I favor you winning this one more so than next week, but Missouri is going to have enough firepower to get through this one. I got Missouri winning this one in a close one.
What you got, Drew?
I think this game right here is going to be very, very interesting in the aspects of how it's going to get won. I don't think either team is going to walk away with it. I think it is going to be something that's going to be close. But to me, I think it's all about momentum. And right now, Missouri has momentum way over South Carolina. South Carolina, I did have high praise for his overall team this season coming into it, and Spencer Rattler getting the job done. He's proven that he can get the job done week in and week out. But overall, there's always something about South Carolina that just lets the team down. You really can't pinpoint it week in and week out, but there's always going to be something that comes up. And last week was indicative of that happening. You had to win, you had the game, you had the momentum boost that you needed to end your season off right, and we just don't get the job done in our home stadium. That was something that really, really shocked me. I didn't even really pay attention to the game as it was going on because I thought South Carolina was going to have all the momentum to win that game. Looking back at it, you see why they lose that game, and just overall, they just had too much of a big hit in the biggest moment. They thought Florida was going to give up that game, and it didn't happen. So going into this week, I think Missouri is the more clean-cut team. I think they had the momentum. I think they had the overall better team to get this job done. I got Missouri winning this one by at least 10, pulling away in the fourth quarter, but I think South Carolina is going to give them a fight. The reason why I think this game is more interesting than anything is because right now the East in the SEC is something that we really got to pay close attention to. Missouri, Tennessee, Georgia are going to be the top 3 teams that's going to be at a fight for it. I know you have to knock Georgia off at some point, but this can be that game that revs up for Missouri to go face Georgia next week and be a big-time matchup. Well, in a couple of weeks, it'll be a big-time matchup for them. So I got Missouri winning this one by 10.
I love what you just said about Missouri. Everything is still in front of Missouri. I can't believe I'm even saying this. Their schedule's not going to do them any favors toward, from now moving on. what they got to do is not look past Carolina, looking forward to Georgia. They can't just overlook them. The big game is coming up on the 4th against Georgia. Missouri's going to have a chance to knock Georgia off, but they can't think about that right now. They have to handle business against Carolina. So with that being said, the game's at home for Missouri. South Carolina is just not playing that well. I like the offense. If you like offense, this is the game for you, seriously. But Missouri is going to pull away late. They have a lot more to play for than Carolina does. I got Missouri by 10 or more, just like you said, Drew. But it's a late pull away. The game is very interesting for 3.5 quarters, but I got Missouri with the W.
All right, moving on to one of the night games. Auburn at home taking on Ole Miss. Ole Miss coming off of the bye right now. I'm not going to harp too much on this one. Auburn proved to me last week when they took on LSU. Auburn they don't have the offensive pieces yet. They can't score with anybody. And going up against Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss knows who they are offensively. You're going to get points from Ole Miss. You got to end up either trying to stop them, and then you got to keep up with them. There's no stopping them and keeping it a low game when it comes to Ole Miss. You got to slow them down, but at the same time, you got to score to be in this ball game. And I don't think Auburn can do it just yet. It's going to take a couple years for them to get that roster to where Hugh Freeze wants it to be. So I honestly think this should be an easy one for Ole Miss going to Auburn and taking this one.
I'm right there with you. I think Ole Miss is going to be a team that can walk away with this one pretty easily, but I think it's going to be a battle in the trenches up front early in this game. I think Auburn is going to have the mentality of, let's try to bully these guys early like we kind of did with Georgia. We can force a couple turnovers early, and we can get them off their efficiency early. Jackson Dart has shown that, hey, if you knock him off early, he can struggle throughout the length of the game. And I think that's the only chance Auburn has to kind of be in this game. Otherwise, I think if they can't get that job done, it's going to be a walk away for Ole Miss. To me, I think Lane Kiffin has his team mentally focused. And I think they had a bye week at the perfect time of their season to really propel them into the back half of the season. I'm kind of going like what Sean said about Missouri. This game for Ole Miss, you cannot look past them into what's coming, because what's coming is a chance for you to really step up in the West and really take advantage of that overall situation. You have the one loss to Alabama right now in the West. Outside of that loss right there is pretty much wide open for what you want to get done and what you want to get done with this season. So you cannot fool around with this game. Coming off your bye week, you should have your team being efficiently run in this game. I think that's going to be the key factor. Limited penalties, limited turnovers, having a great explosive offense to get the job done. I got Ole Miss by 3 touchdowns against Auburn, around like 38 to like 15, 16, something like that. So I really got a game that's going to be in a shootout early. I mean, in a tight battle early, but I think Ole Miss will walk away with it.
Yeah, man. As much as I dislike Auburn, I kind of feel bad for him, man. Like I like Hugh Freeze a lot. And you said it, man. It's gonna take him a little while. It's gonna take some time to get rostered. The problem for me, Auburn has not scored 21 points or more in their last 5 Power 5 games. And the reason why this is because they don't have any quarterback play. So what I'm hearing from down there in Cal Country is Robbie Ashford may end up getting a start just because Peyton Thorne is just not doing anything to move the football. I don't dislike Robbie Ashford. Matter of fact, I actually saw him do some pretty good things in the Bama game last year. He actually made a couple of good throws. I don't know how they have just gone away from him like they have. But if they get him on the field and design a package to where he can utilize his legs, throw some screen passes, some bubble screens, some tunnel screens, things of that nature, they may be able to keep this game close. But that's just too many ifs, in my opinion. So with that being said, Ole Miss is too much. They got too much. The running game is too good. Jackson Dart is too good. Only thing Auburn has going for them is that they're playing at home. And one thing you got to love about Auburn is they fan and show up regardless of what the record is. The stadium is going to be rocking, even though they have not won an SEC game yet. These fans are passionate, and they're going to try their best to push their team through. It's just not going to happen. I got Ole Miss big. This game is over after the second quarter.
All right, and then moving on to the nightcap, we got LSU at home taking on Army. LSU last week, they looked good against Auburn. They got out in front. And once they got out in front, they didn't look back. They kind of used it more as a scrimmage type of game, work on the defense, get the defense kind of some confidence heading into what they got in front of them. Because you got Bama coming off the bye after this game. You got Florida, who's looking like they've kind of figured out who they are, and then you got Georgia State and Texas A&M. One thing I will tell you about this LSU team is trying to see when you get into competitive games, and it's not going to be this one. How much motivated are you in these football games? Because of you've got the losses already on the scale. Your hopes of getting in that college football playoff are out. You're not gonna make it. Your only hope is that some other teams, kind of like last season, some of these other SEC West teams beat each other up in the back half of the season, and you could slip in and maybe get that take the West title this year, which I don't think is gonna happen. But this should be another easy game for them. Not gonna linger too long on it. Get some confidence for your guys. Go ahead get out early. Get this one out the way and head into your bye week and get working on some things before you got to take that trip to Tuscaloosa to take on Bama.
Gotcha. I'm right there with you. I got LSU walking away with this game in a landslide, but I don't even think that should be the conversation about this game. I want to kind of hone in right with what you said about the college football playoffs for LSU. I've heard all year long that this is the year where a 2-loss team might make it. Now, I said might. It's going to be a strong might for LSU, but the way their offense is showing up, I think that offense can show up against any team in the country. Their biggest test is going to be against Alabama in a couple of weeks, so we're going to have to really focus in on that one. But you got to think about it. If Alabama wins this week, they're going to become a top 10 team. If LSU knocks off Alabama, they win the West, and they go in and knock off the SEC and win the SEC championship, their resume is not going to look too terrible in the totality of what we're going to look at the end of the year. Now, that's a long way down the road. We got a lot to happen in that same standpoint. But right now, LSU's offense is clicking at an extremely, extremely high level. And that's something that I think that everybody in the country has to take notice of. Will they get the things done to get to that point? I'm going to go ahead and say no. But it is an interesting point to look at because a lot of these top 15 teams are really about to start punching up on each other. Teams like that's kind of started off slow are going to slowly coast their way back into it. I think they will have a discussion if they can finish their season off strong. Will that happen? I don't think so. But overall, it's going to be something we all have to take interest in. So I got LSU winning this one convincingly, knocking them out in the range of 50 points scored. So I really want to see LSU step up in this game. Y'all have a fun one to just make things interesting in the West. I want to see it happen.
Yeah, the main thing for LSU is health. They don't need to have any significant injuries in a game like this. You know, I wouldn't be worried about the point spread. I wouldn't be worried about a lot of things, but getting the W and making sure that they're healthy so that they can potentially do what you just talked about there, Drew. I don't know much about Army. I don't think I need to know much about Army. LSU offensively is playing just as good as anybody else in the entire country right now. They don't need to embarrass themselves on the defensive side of the ball and let Army score points. You know what I mean? You know, it's kind of like what's happening with USC right now, or even before they had their loss against Notre Dame. USC was continually dropping in the polls, even though they were winning games, because everyone knew that they could not play defense. This could end up being something similar that happens to LSU in that same vein. So they just need to make sure that they wipe the floor with Army like on paper they actually should, and they should be able to carry some momentum into their bye week and into Tuscaloosa. So you know, it is what it is. LSU's big. I think the line here is 31. You know, it may be more than that. It may be a little less, but either way, LSU's going to get the win very easily. I just want to make sure they come out of this game healthy. You lose Jaden Daniels, your season is completely over. Get him out of the game as quickly as possible. Let him rest. Get your O-line out of the game as quickly as possible. Let them rest. Fight another day. But I got LSU big.